Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack a highly specific, deeply visceral reaction that, honestly, so many of us have, yet almost nobody talks about out loud. We're going to look closely at the hidden psychology of what actually happens in your brain the very second you hear an unexpected knock at your door. Basically, we're breaking down the science of the doorbell freeze response.
Picture this for a second. You're at home, you're comfortable, completely in your own zone, and suddenly, the doorbell chimes. And what do? Well, you don't walk to the door. Nope, you freeze. Maybe you instantly mute the TV. You might even hold your breath, instinctively tiptoeing away from the front windows, just standing there, hoping whoever is on the porch will just give up and walk away. It's a shared secret experience, right? A completely instinctual reaction. But why exactly do we do it?
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive disconnect between what society tells us and what psychology actually knows. Because, society loves to slap negative labels on this kind of behavior. If you hide from the door, people might call you antisocial, paranoid, or just plain weird. They'll argue, just open it, it's probably a delivery or a neighbor. But the psychological truth, as opposed to those harsh societal labels, reframes this entirely. Hiding from unexpected visitors doesn't mean you're broken or overly anxious. Actually, it's the hallmark of a highly logical, incredibly protective, and energy-conscious nervous system.
To really understand why, we need to slow down for a minute and look at how your brain manages its resources. Think about when you're at home. You are often in a state of deep focus, maybe quiet reflection, or just vital relaxation. Highly intelligent and introspective people treat this state with immense respect because they understand that mental energy is a finite, precious resource. Psychologists actually call this your cognitive bandwidth. Your brain is actively using this bandwidth to process your internal world, and let me tell you, it fiercely protects this limited energy supply.
But then, ding-dong, that noise isn't just a sound. It is an immediate, aggressive demand for your attention. It's a literal shock to the system that forces your brain to instantly and violently switch gears from internal, peaceful reflection right into managing a sudden external situation. You don't hide because you're terrified of the human being on the other side of that door. You hide because your brain is sounding a massive alarm to protect its precious cognitive bandwidth from a completely uninvited disruption.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the concept of social sensitivity and how it governs your social battery. People who crave depth and authenticity often possess what psychology identifies as high social sensitivity. This simply means your nervous system naturally burns significantly more energy during social contact than the average person's does. It's not that you fear people or hate socializing. You probably love connecting with people you care about. But, and this is absolutely key, you require intentional time to mentally prepare for it. You need to gather your energy and set your intentions so you can be authentically present.
An unexpected visitor completely robs you of that necessary preparation time. It plunges you instantly into what psychologists refer to as forced social pressure. You are suddenly thrust into a situation demanding that you instantly put on a smile, be totally on, and perform for another person without a single second of warning. And for a highly sensitive individual, this sudden demand is just physically and mentally exhausting. Your brain is actively rejecting this ambush.
Which brings us to this incredibly validating truth. When you freeze in your living room, remaining perfectly still and quiet, it is not an anxiety attack. It's just your nervous system's highly logical way of opting out of a forced performance. It's a preservation tactic. You're making a biological choice to protect your social energy reserves rather than spending them on a complete surprise interaction.
We also really have to look at the environment where this is all happening, which is your home. For highly observant individuals, the outside world is consistently loud, demanding, and honestly full of sensory overload. Therefore, your home acts as a protective barrier against that chaos. It's your ultimate psychological sanctuary. Literally, it is the one single space on Earth where you maintain absolute, total control over your mental space, your environment, and your privacy.
So, when someone marches up to your front door and knocks unannounced, it registers subconsciously as a profound boundary violation. That sudden disruption temporarily strips away the carefully maintained control you have over your own environment. It shatters your psychological safety. The outside world is suddenly demanding entry into your safe zone completely on their terms, not yours.
So the crucial point is that ignoring the door is actually an act of reclamation. You're weighing two distinct options here: satisfying someone else's timeline by answering versus reclaiming your boundary and your psychological peace by staying silent. By not answering that door, you're making a conscious, active decision. You're declaring, albeit silently, that your peace and your psychological safety are simply way more important than catering to someone else's unannounced arrival.
Finally, let's explore the cognitive complexity factor. This is where we really see the sheer speed of an analytical mind at work. When an average person hears a doorbell, they have a very simple thought. Oh, someone's at the door, I'll go open it. But if you have a highly analytical brain, that simple noise triggers an instantaneous flood of scenarios, causing a temporary cognitive overload.
In mere milliseconds, your brain fires off rapid calculations. First, who is it? Is it a package, a neighbor, a salesperson, someone I actually know?
Then, immediately, what do they want? Do they need a favor? Is it an emergency or just a casual drop-in? And right on the heels of that, how long are they going to stay? Will this take 5 seconds, or am I about to be trapped in a completely draining conversation for the next hour? Do I even have the emotional energy for this right now? If I open this door, is it going to completely ruin the deep focus I've been cultivating all morning?
Let's move to and see how this builds into the final reaction. Your brain takes all those rapid-fire questions and runs them through a lightning-fast cost-benefit analysis. It literally weighs the social cost against the peaceful benefit. It looks at the potential for cognitive overload and drained energy from a forced interaction, and then compares it to the efficient outcome of simply preserving your peace by opting out. The calculation finishes, your brain realizes the sudden social cost heavily outweighs any benefit, and boom, it triggers the freeze response. You're not being a coward. You are literally just executing the most efficient, peaceful outcome based on a massive amount of rapid data processing. So, the next time that doorbell rings unexpectedly, and you find yourself standing perfectly still in your kitchen, waiting for the footsteps on the porch to fade away, I want you to remember this. Do not feel guilty. You are not weird. You are simply someone who values their deep focus, protects their social energy, and actively honors their personal boundaries.
Let this thought be your ultimate reassurance. You don't owe the world access to you 24 hours a day. Understanding that your peace is a priority is a huge sign of high self-awareness and emotional preservation. You are absolutely allowed to keep your sanctuary closed when you haven't prepared to open it.
Which leaves us with this exciting thought to wrap up today's explainer. If hiding from the doorbell is actually a brilliant strategy of an energy-conscious mind, what other so-called weird habits do you have that are actually your mind's secret advantages? Honestly, understanding your own mind is the greatest advantage you can ever build. Thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to explore the next hidden psychological advantage with you in our next explainer. Until then, keep learning and absolutely keep protecting your peace.